Have you ever wondered how MOZEY, aka Dad, makes his filthy DNB bangers? Well, today I'm going to be showing you how he creates his tracks like Tell Me and Break It Down. Welcome back on How to DNB with Inverse Audio. My name is 5X and I've got another slapper for you today. Make sure to hit subscribe, like the button if you've enjoyed, and as always, comment with any suggestions you might have for the next video. And without any further ado, let's get right into the video.
Get your gun finger up.
MOZEY's signature sound starts off with a drum beat. His drum loops carry a distinct simplicity, featuring a two-step kick and snare pattern. However, where the magic happens is in the hi-hats. Embrace the minimalism. Opt for short, crisp hats and strategically placed rides that emphasize every beat and every second beat. Inject energy by incorporating kicks strategically at the end of sections, creating mini build-ups that seamlessly transition into the next part of your track. Now, as always, I'll break down each of the elements separately and then play them together at the end. So starting off with a drum loop, like I said, it's a very simple drum loop, but the key is in finding good samples. So a simple and punchy kick, then we want a nice fat snare, and together they'll sound like. Next, we've got a ride. Next, we've got short hi-hat hitting every beat, and then just another hat to fill out the space that's hitting every bar. And the full drum loop sounds like this. And then, like I said earlier, to break up the monotony, at the end of this phrase, I've gone for a simple drum build-up. Now onto the processing to make the sound fat. I've not actually processed anything on the kick. This is just an automated EQ that filters out lower frequencies in the build-up. The snares and the hi-hats don't have anything on themselves. However, on the snare bus, I do have a few effects that just make it sound a bit fatter. So this is without anything, and this is with the effects. So firstly, I have a transient shaper that's just turning up the attack and a little bit of a sustain just to give it a better transient. Then to control a bit of the volume and to add some harmonics, I've got a decapitator on a volume of 1. And then lastly, I have a rift with the positive shape just turned up on the default setting, just to give it more energy again. And then lastly, what I've done here, I've made another mixer channel, and I've called it parallel compression. And on here, I have Pro C2 using the parallel compression preset, along with a decapitator. Now, the benefits of using this is that you both get the transients on your main channel, but then you also get the squished body of those compressed sounds. And when you blend them together, you'll end up with a really nice and fat loop. MOZEY's bass lines are the heartbeat of his style. Mastering call and response technique, he often employs a distorted sine wave accompanied by a generous amount of white noise. Paired with that, he uses a fast sine wave FM wobble drenched in heavy distortion. For added variation, introduce a re-space between sections, combining it with the main melody to establish both familiarity and cohesion. This dual layer bass approach will elevate your tracks and capture MOZEY's distinctive essence. So I'll quickly just play the bass lines to you first. So without any sidechain, they sound like this. Now that's comprised of 4 elements. The first one being the sub, which just holds down the root note. And the way that I've made my sub is by grabbing a basic sine wave. And then if we go into this editor and add in harmonics 3 and 5, up until we get a flat slope like this, something like this. And then you just pitch it down to your desired octave. And that's all it is. I've just got a filter on it with a bit of drive. Then the next bass that we have is that iconic white noise stab distorted thing. Now that's actually made out of 2 layers. The first one, now this one is, it's got a few more harmonics. So I've used a few more interesting wavetables like distortion, C3 and PWM weird, because it does sound a bit weird. Now it's all being controlled by this LFO1, which is set to an envelope of 1/4 rate. And that's going to the wavetable position, the FM, and the cutoff. And on the effects, we just have a bit of dimension, the hyper's off, a lot of distortion, of course. I've got this EQ because I found this really cool frequency and I just wanted to bring it up. And then compression, multi-band compression as well. Then the second layer to that sounds like this. Now this was a bit more simple. It's the saw rounded wave with the wavetable position set to 8. And then LFO1 controls the level of the noise and the level of oscillator A. And then we've got a bit of distortion and compression. It's a very simple sound. When you combine those two, You get the nice width of the first one and the cool harmonics, but then you get the bass tone from that second one. Now, the next bass that we've used, which is probably a bit more iconic for MOZEY, and we have also this pitch bend automation going on here. So yeah, it sounds like this. Now this one is really simple. Once again, we've got 2 sine waves, and I basically played about with the tuning because it doesn't really matter too much. It's not too much of a tonal sound. But I do have LFO1 in this 1/8 rate, which is controlling the level of both oscillators as well as a bit of white noise. Now you might notice this filter, all that it's really doing is controlling the white noise. So we're taking out all of those low frequencies, and we've got this little peak that just moves up as the sound does, and it controls the white noise. The octaves I've gone for here is +2, +2, and then -3 semitones, -1. If you play about with these, you'll get a completely different sound. So I guess with this sort of sound, don't be afraid to think outside the box and just play about. On the effects, we have a bit of dimension once again, distortion with LFO1, and the filter is set to high 24. So we're just cutting out all the low frequencies again, just in case there are any. Now, the interesting thing is with this one is I've mapped macro 1 to the rate of LFO1 like that. And then I've automated this within my DAW so that I can get interesting variations without changing the sound. So the first section is an 1/8, and then in the second section, we go up to a 16th. And then towards the end, I've just been playing about with it. There's endless possibilities with this. Yeah, you can, have first bit of it a bit longer and then make it faster. Now, the next sound that we have is this respace that's just used as a fill. Now, this one, it's actually a lot simpler than it sounds. It's just 2 sawtooth waves, unison of 9 and 8, -2 octaves. I've detuned this one slightly. We've got the filter set on MG low with a bit of, well, we've just cut off the highs on this one. No effects. The real effects come in a post-processing phase. And that's from this frequency shifter. Now, this is a standalone. It comes in with FL Studio, and this is without. And when you put this on and you change the frequency and the feedback, you'll be able to hear what it does. As soon as we turn up this feedback, it gives it almost like an underwater effect. So the faster you do that, the faster it will go. But yeah, I've gone for a bit of a milder setting. And then once again, distorted it with a rift. And then what I was on about earlier with the familiarity and cohesion for the track is I do have this main synth that goes throughout the whole track. And then just to fill the space out, I've added it here. And these two complement each other very nicely. So then when you do have the drop playing, it all makes a bit more sense. Very cool. Being a seasoned OG in the scene, MOZEY loves infusing his music with an old school vibe. Channel the spirit of early rave sounds, incorporating nostalgic chord stabs and embracing the warmth of analog tones. Keep your melodies simple and effective. Resist the urge to over-process them. Create an atmosphere that plays homage to the roots of drum and bass, and you'll find a sweet spot that defines MOZEY's iconic sound. Now, for the intro here and the melody, originally I did quite struggle with this, and I thought I could go with some sort of vocal sample. So I found this old news report from the 90s, I believe, when they were talking about an underground, an illegal rave.
Outside, it seems evidence of the recession, an empty warehouse boarded up and a target for vandals. Inside, the perfect venue for one of a growing number of illegal rave parties in the West.
So yeah, after I heard that, I was sort of struggling for ideas again, but I did manage to come across this stab on Splice. So then when I heard that rave stab, I was like, why not just make it sound like this is actually being broadcast on the news? And I made a whole breaking news soundtrack. Sounds like this. I'll break this down. So obviously you've got the rave stab. Then we've got this nice analog patch from Opal. which sort of serves as a Reese, but it's not quite as low. Then we've got this cool sequence up, once again from Opal. And that one really gives the impression that this is actually a news article. And then I've made a simple pluck on Serum. As you can hear, all the sounds are very analog and they sound old, like they could be from the 90s. So yeah, pair all those together with the news article.
The growing number of illegal rave parties in the region. In Bristol, officers managed to stop an illegal party at Bristol.
Amazing. MOZEY sets the stage early in his intros by introducing the drums, setting the crowd in motion. During the build-up, deploy a heavily repeated kick paired with some strategically placed snares. Elevate the tension with a white noise riser that creates crescendos to the impending drop. Infuse the build-up with a touch of nostalgia by selecting a simple vocal that resonates with the raving theme and complements the overall vibe of your track. So for the build-up, I started the drums on the 9th bar, but it does drop on 25. So I've literally just copied the drums over, and with those elements that we heard previously and the news article, it sounds a bit like this.
Pounds was caused at another factory last week.
It just helps to give it that bit of early rhythm, because otherwise, you know, you're not going to listen to a news article or a news broadcast in a rave. It's just going to be a bit weird. To add some tension within the build-ups and the other sections, respectively, I've just added a bunch of white noise, risers, and this wheel-up effect as well. Very cool. And then we've got more risers, more impacts, basic level stuff. But yeah, this bit sounds like this now.
Damage estimated at thousands of pounds was caused at another factory last week.
Outside it seems evidence of the recession, an empty warehouse boarded up and a target for...
Now for the actual build-up, I've gone for a very, very heavy repeated kick, especially in this section, and as well as a kick, snare sort of pattern, which sounds like this. It's basically just a repeated kick, right? But you're taking out the kicks where the snare would usually go, and that makes it sound like this. So if you're wondering how to get that sound, it's literally just that. And then on top of that, I've added a low cut to the kick, just so when it does get really repetitive, it's not just blasting through the whole mix. And obviously it comes back down for the drop. Then with the main melody, I made it a bit more news article like, and sort of resolved it. And this is the main theme of the whole song, or the main melody, if you like. And that's what plays right here. Then for a rave-like vocal, I've gone for something out spliced. Sounds like this.
Get your gun finger up.
Very fitting, I feel. But yeah, the build-up sounds like this.
The perfect venue for one of a growing number of illegal rave parties in the West.
Get your gun finger up. Get your gun finger up.
One of a growing number of illegal rave parties in the West.
Well, yeah, guys, that is how to make drum and bass like MOZEY. I hope you've all enjoyed the video. Sorry, it's a bit of a shorter one. As always, if you need samples or presets, please make sure to go check out our website down below. If you're interested in one-to-one tuition, also either drop us a message on Instagram or go on the website to find out more details. Let us know what video you want to see next. And without any further ado, I'll catch you in the next one.
The growing number of illegal rave parties in the region. In Bristol, officers managed to stop an illegal party at Brislington after youngsters broke into a disused factory. Damage estimated at thousands of pounds was caused at another factory last week.
Outside it seems evidence of the recession, an empty warehouse boarded up and a target for vandals. Inside the perfect venue for one of a growing number of illegal rave parties in the West.
Get your gun finger up.